So at 6:30, I'm going to begin the meeting. For everybody's information, this meeting is being recorded, and it will be available on VCTV after the recording has been edited. And this is the February 26th special meeting of the Rules and Ordinance Committee. We're going to start earlier than normal at 6:30. If we have future meetings, they are typically at 7, but tonight we agreed to start early because it is a special meeting. I'll start by doing a roll call. Richard?
Here.
Oh, you are here? You want to do the roll call?
And we're off.
What am I supposed to do?
Call the roll. Call the roll.
Oh.
And take notes.
Oh, I guess.
It's on the top of the agenda.
Here we go. John Hartwell.
I am here.
Peter Henschel.
Here.
Susan Daigle.
Here.
Sean Kelly.
Here.
Ralph Murray.
Here.
Trish Anderson.
Here.
Richard Jennings. Here.
Thank you. So before we begin, just one note, since we do have quite a few people in the audience, if you can try to keep conversation amongst yourselves to a minimum, because it primarily makes it hard for us to hear if somebody's speaking or if we're talking, amongst ourselves. So we'd appreciate it if you allow us that help. The first item on the agenda is to consider and, if appropriate, recommend the establishment of an administrative town ordinance to create a traffic authority as allowed under Connecticut General Statute 7-149D to assume the powers and duties related to traffic currently held by the Board of Police. So just for everybody's information, currently as part of the Police Commission, they have a subgroup that takes on traffic issues. And what this would do is pull that authority away from the Police Commission altogether and create a separate traffic commission in Brantford, independent of the police department, which would basically have the same purview and responsibilities as now or within the Police Commission. And this is something that's allowed by the Connecticut General Statute. And it was made, we're looking at this because of a request by the first selectman, Josh Brooks, who has just come in. And in addition, Representative Kevin Healy had put in a similar request. The Kevin Healy's, and I attached this to the minutes that went out, the agenda, that went out. Kevin Healy's request had really two parts. One was to create the commission. The second was regarding traffic cameras, because he was a proponent of the town adopting the use of traffic cameras, speed cameras, which would come under the purview of a commission, a traffic commission. Just as a note, even if the traffic commission decides to use wants to use speed cameras, they would have to come back to the RTM for the legislative approval of that particular action. But in talking with Representative Healy, we agreed that we would pull that particular part of his request off of this part of this particular item on the agenda and just focus on the creation of the independent traffic commission or traffic board. So the first thing that we normally have done in our ordinance purview or reviews is to create a working group. And on this particular item, I have talked independently about having our two RTM leaders, the majority leader and the minority leader, Dan Edelman and Victoria Vetteram, be on that working group along with me. They both agreed that would be an excellent choice for that working group. So we have some discussion about whether everybody in our committee agrees to that as a move forward. Have discussion. Somebody want to make a motion that we create that working group?
I make a motion.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And second to this, I would, given that that's put into effect, and now that group has to start to do some research and work. We would want to re-refer this, have the RTM re-refer it to us, so I would also entertain a motion that we request that the RTM re-refer this item.
Motion to re-refer.
Second.
Got that? Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Good. Okay. The second item on the agenda is to consider and if appropriate recommend that the RTM designate the road known as Jefferson Place in Brantford as a town road as petitioned by the adjacent property owners.
Excuse me, that's the third item. You said second. Just,
Okay. This is the second issue.
sorry.
It's the second real name.
Third item.
Sorry.
Second issue.
It's right.
Um, So this group, this has been opened in the past meeting, re-referred to the committee. We did establish a working group on this particular item, which is Richard Jennings, Sean Kelly, and myself. We had agreed in the last meeting and with the agreement of the first selectman that an appropriate step before we went any further with this particular request would be to have a survey done of the road and all the abutting property owners, so that if the committee should decide to recommend that the RTM adopt that as a road, we would legally know what we were asking the town to adopt from a land record point of view, and that seemed like an appropriate step, so that is in progress at this point. I don't have an update from the town engineer on the status of that survey work, but it's both it'd be both a survey, an actual survey drawing, and looking at the various deeds and doing a title search, so that we know exactly what the status of that area that's known as Jefferson Place is. At that point, that may take next meeting or two meetings to get that information back, and at that point, when it's pulled back, then the committee will take a look at it, look at any issues that are that come up because of that survey, and decide either whether issues need to be resolved or whether it could go straight to the RTM with a recommendation. So there really is no action for tonight. Is there any committee questions
I
about
have a question.
that? Yes.
Are they getting plowed at this point?
Yes, I think
Okay.
they are. They are? Okay, yeah, they are getting plowed.
Because that's what started this whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I drove by earlier and the road was certainly plowed.
Yeah. So with that said, unless there's any other further discussion, I would ask for a motion that we ask the RTM to re-refer this.
Motion to re-refer.
Second, Susan? Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Great. Which brings us to the fourth, aka third item on the agenda, which is to consider and if appropriate recommend the establishment of a town ordinance to allow a senior property tax freeze for certain qualified senior Brantford homeowners. We did establish a working group on this, which was Tricia Anderson, John Hartwell, and myself. That group has been doing some due diligence work of a variety of sorts to both research and further understand what's at stake here. And I'll ask John Hartwell to give us a report on what's been done to date.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the committee has been reviewing this various ordinances and state laws because they both come into play. There are other towns around the state which have a variety of ordinances, some of which they call a freeze, which may not be. Some are deferral programs. Everybody has a mandated program from the state that's in operation. It's been going for a long time. And these programs all have different levels of age and income restrictions. Some of them have property restrictions, depending on what the program is all about. So the committee has been spending time going into those, and we still have more to do. But for example, some of the towns that have something that looks like a senior tax freeze or something similar, another senior tax program, West Hartford, Durham, North Haven, Fairfield, Guilford, Madison, Middletown. There's a bunch of towns around the state that have something. In addition to the mandated state program that is for seniors who are at least 65 and have an income below this point around $55,000 in that neighborhood. So we're taking a look at all of those things. We did set up a Zoom call with the assessor here, Paula Jensen, and her staff. That happened a couple of weeks ago. She's very cooperative. She's very eager to be involved in this, and we'll be talking with her throughout this entire process, and as well as her staff. They're very helpful. And we've been looking at the two programs that come through her office, one of which is this mandated program and another one which deals with veterans. And again, there's different levels of who can participate and what that's going to mean to you. So there are income thresholds, there are local options that can be applied, there are financial impacts from all of these programs. And so one of the things that came out of our discussion with the assessor's office was that if we do something, we want to keep it as administratively simple as possible, so that we don't add unnecessarily to the burden of the assessor's office, which, as you know, already has a lot to do. So the next steps at this point, that's how far we've gotten, and we've set up a database that we use amongst ourselves to see what we've collected. Next steps is we're going to have another meeting with the tax collector, because they're the third program that's in place in the town is a tax deferral program, and if you want to be part of that, you have to go through the tax collector, which is something that we may take a look at. So he's going to show us what this program is. It's the deferral program, where instead of paying your taxes now, you pay them later. But there's interest involved in that. And he has some ideas for program improvements, so we'll be certainly open to talking about those things. Amongst ourselves in the group, we need to clarify the possible objectives that we would have. Who's going to be involved in a program, if anyone, if there's going to be a program, who's in, and why, and what it is that we're trying to do here. And we would look at some various elements that would necessarily be needed to be examined. So, for example, residency requirements. If you're going to do another program, how long should someone have lived here? Income caps. So this is a program, would be, if we do it, something that's designed to help people who need help. It's not just for everybody. They value a cap on your home. So it's unlikely that we would do a program for $1 million house on the water. And maybe looking at other assets that you might have in order to meet your tax burden. So those are all things that have to be looked at and considered. They're in other people's ordinances. We would need to take a look at those as a committee, the working group. And when we start to hone down on what we're looking at, then we need to figure out what the financial impact might be. So there'll be some economic models that need to be put together. Spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. So, and then once we have all that, we would come back to the assessor and the tax collector, and of course to the committee as a whole, and start talking about, is this something we want to do and what's it going to look like. So we're at the very beginning of this process, really. We've just begun the research. There's a lot more that needs to be done. There'll be lots more meetings in public, and there'll be meetings amongst us in the working group to try to figure out what, if anything, we want to do. So that's where we are.
So just to add to that, one of the things that John just mentioned is we're internally developing some analytical worksheets to try to look at the financial aspects of this, and really to answer two questions. One is what we would anticipate is the total amount of tax money that's being deferred or being frozen as a block of money. But the other, probably more important number that we want to be able to identify once we've established a model program and a model of the finances of it is, we're talking about basically shifting tax burden here, because if people that have a tax freeze are paying less, we know that means that everybody else in the community is going to be paying a little bit more. And what we want to do along with that model, so we can let everybody know what this really means, and for the community is, what are those dollar numbers? If, what's it going to mean to your tax bill to support this kind of a program in town? And I think that the numbers will look relatively small when we actually look at them, but we felt that was an important piece of information that needed to come out in the end once we've actually put a draft idea, concept together of how this program might work and the various metrics that John has been talking about. Why don't I start with questions from the committee in terms of both where we've been and where we may be going as a working group? Anybody?
Like over the course of 5 years, how much does property tax go up, generally?
Well, it's been, what,
Goes up every mill rate.
2 to 2.5%. Yeah,
Every
year.
mill rate it goes up.
Because the tax, it's, property taxes are what pay for the town, basically. Not all of it is from property taxes, but the vast majority of what goes into the budget comes out of property taxes. Property taxes are tied to the budget. So we have a budget, we have a grand list, and that comes out the mill rate. The mill rate's a very, it's a simple arithmetic calculation. So, but in general, if inflation is 2% or 2.5%, then you can expect town budgets to go up by that much, and therefore your taxes might go by that sum. So in general, that's what happens. Now, obviously, we're going to try to keep taxes low, I'm sure, and services improve. I mean, that's always what people want to do.
Yeah.
But that's where we are.
And we have both, the general inflationary cost to the town and also the staff increases when we do have, contract upgrades, and that periodically that bumps the cost of staff. In addition, is another component of inflation.
Yeah.
And then the assessment.
And then the assessment.
Yeah.
Right. The assessments happen every 5 years.
Right.
But what the result of the last assessment, when housing prices went up, commercial prices did not go up as much, and therefore there was tax burden that was shifted toward the residential because they've got a larger piece of the economic pie.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, a reval shouldn't make that much difference.
Right.
If everybody, if commercial and real estate went up at this, at the same
Evenly,
level,
yeah.
then it wouldn't have any real impact on your taxes. What would happen is it's really back to the budget. The budget's the key.
So if someone is paying, just for round figures, $10,000, and they qualify for our new program, and they'll be paying $10,000 into perpetuity.
So the town would be basically missing that additional 2% every year, whatever that number is, going forward.
Right.
That's the loss.
So the loss will get greater each year.
Pardon?
Yes.
The deficit between what we would have gotten and what we're getting goes up, so the makeup will go up.
It'll go up, and that's when we're doing our analytic worksheets. That what we're trying to look at is exactly how do those numbers play out in terms of actual dollars over time, numbers of people participating, and what does it mean incrementally year by year to the town.
Leave the program, new people come into the program. It's always evolving and growing.
And in theory, you'd reach a kind of steady state in terms of the people participating, where the people that had entered and the people that were slowly dropping off were relatively consistent.
But also
The actual
dependent
loss
by
to the
how
town
many
is
people
going
in
to
a given
increase.
town.
Right.
Like some towns have older populations than
Right.
others, so,
Mm.
so
And
that
that's part of our modeling, would be to look
Yeah.
at the demographics of the town. That's one of the reasons we were talking to the assessor's office, is to try to get information on those numbers, the age of people, the ownership, housing ownership, et cetera, so that we could have good information to plug into a model to figure out these impacts. But we need the demographic of Branford to understand what this would mean.
What does the deferment program look like instead of
Sorry, what?
The
deferment
deferment
program?
So the deferment program is one where people are allowed currently in Brantford, again, certain age limits
criteria.
and things like that, up to 75% of their tax burden they can defer, but the town then puts a lien on the house, and you may or may not pay an interest rate. The interest rate is determined by some other factors, what your income is. And there are not very many people right now participating in that program.
A very low number. It's basically like a loan.
It is.
The town is
Yeah, it's
loaning.
like a second mortgage, yeah.
You're
So-
postponing your taxes until
You know,
you
when
sell
that
your
house is sold, that all gets paid back.
So that's a relatively small group of people. The numbers are relatively larger because you can defer up to 75% of your taxes if you want, if you're in that program.
Wouldn't that help decrease everybody else's taxes from going up?
No, it's go the other way.
We have to make up that difference.
If we defer somebody's taxes, they're not
But
paying it
at
to
the end,
you.
we're gonna get,
Again, you
We'll
get
get
it
it
back.
back.
It's a
We're
state
back,
tax.
gonna get an influx
Yeah.
at
but
some
we're not
point.
gonna give it to them.
It's just not,
So, I mean, that's what I mean, why,
Yeah,
from the town's point of view, it's not really a loss, it's just shifting when we get the money.
correct.
Right.
Essentially for it.
to flow.
I prefer to shift the
Right
money
now, I
than
think it was
to,
like
I'd
less
rather,
than 20
right, I'd rather
Raise
shift it than
everybody.
Yeah,
lose
it's
it.
Right.
fewer than 20 people are in the program right now,
It's a
and if
very
I
small
remember
number.
correctly, the amount of money that has been deferred up till now is in the neighborhood of $900,000.
have we recouped any of that?
We will recoup it when those
Right.
houses get sold, and so that's what the tax collector does, and he's pretty good at that job, actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
it's
one
much
is a
easier.
small program with a larger amount of money. The other programs that are in place are larger numbers of people, but very small amounts of money per person. And then we have to see what the aggregate is for all of that, and see where we go from there. So there's lots to be looked at here.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
A lot of moving parts, yeah. But in essence, what we're looking at, I think, is a more equitable situation for people who lived in town for a while, who've been contributing to us, who may be house rich and cash poor, right? And so therefore, we might put in a new program that will help them. But there are already some programs that might help them as well, so.
One of the things we'll bring back to the committee as a report will be essentially like a diagram of all the different programs, that are in place right now in town, plus this program, and explaining why they differ, what's each program is trying to achieve, and how it works financially, et cetera, so you can see in total what the town is doing as opposed to just this particular proposal.
I mean, don't we have the Gold Star
Yes,
tax as well?
yes, for veterans,
Right.
Veterans,
or for Gold Star families.
Is that being utilized?
I don't know what the numbers are there.
It's all about knowing what's available,
Yeah, right.
qualifying for what is available, and then
I think we did get the
qualifying
numbers for
each
that,
year.
but I don't recall what they were.
Yeah. I would say, just sort of in closing here, we're in the period during which you can apply for those programs. It started on the 1st of February, it ends on the 15th of May. So if you know someone who's interested in the programs we already have in place, not the freeze we're talking about, we don't have a freeze,
We don't have that yet.
but we do have 3 other programs that you might qualify for. So if you feel like you know somebody who is in a situation where they might need some help with their property taxes and they're a senior, then have them go to the assessor's office for the first 2, or if they want to simply shift their taxes, they go to the tax collector's office, and they'll be happy to show them everything and talk with them and figure out if they actually qualify for the current program.
So just a point of interest, in the registered voters, the largest age group in Branford is 70 to 79.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So,
Okay, any other questions from the committee? Any questions from people in the audience? Dan?
Representative Hartwell, just a clarification, I think you may have answered, but we were talking about the itemization, the number of projects that are in existence that you're looking into. You said the tax deferment, and you said there's a lot of...
there are three
No,
programs.
I know you said there's a lot of interest involved with that. And I presume you're talking about financial interest on the tax deferment as opposed to public interest?
Oh, yeah, so, and there is financial interest
Financial,
involved in
yeah.
the deferral program, yes. But there's not, in fact, very much public interest. There are fewer than 20 people who are currently
I
signed
think
up.
you just answered my question
Yeah.
before, but I just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Any other questions from the audience? So hearing none, this item needs to be re-referred. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The fourth item is to consider and if appropriate recommend the establishment of a town ordinance to limit the use of gas-fired leaf blowers and encourage alternatives. I did attach in one of our earlier agendas the initial request that was made for the committee to review this particular item. And you can find that if you want to look at the earlier agendas and see what was actually requested. We did establish a working group, Richard Jennings, Ralph Murray, and Sean Kelly in the initial working group. And I will ask Richard for a brief report on what has been done to date on that.
So Representative Sean Kelly and Representative Ralph Murray and I are the working group. We began the working group with a difference of opinion on the issue, and our differences remain. But we looked at, we broke it up into different issues because it's a fairly complicated issue. The first issue we looked at was the health effects on an individual worker using a gas-powered leaf blower. So we reported that the two-stroke engines emit hydrocarbons, particulates, and vapors. I'm just going to mention the things that stick out to me. So of the three of the four most carcinogenic particulates, gas-powered leaf blowers emit 3 of them. And the problem with that, we looked at, well, can you mitigate the effects with protective equipment? So there's one, OSHA requires it's a long list, but a very fancy mask to prevent the inhalation. I have a picture of them. And they cost between $70 and $90. The other issue is noise. So the average gas-powered leaf blower emits over 100. Is that what's the
Decibels.
Decibels, which can cause hearing loss, and in some cases hearing loss diminishment also. And what I learned newly was that hearing loss is associated with blood pressure problems, cardiovascular problems, and a 5-fold increase in dementia. So, then there's also the vibration of the machine can lead to vascular, neurological, and muscular complications. The mask, eye protection, gloves can mitigate to a certain extent, but it doesn't. So that was the end of the first week. Week 2, we looked at the economic impact on landscaping companies. And to my surprise, after the initial transition cost is tolerated by companies, the operating costs, they save up to $1,200 to $1,300 a year in operating costs, because of the cost of gasoline and maintenance and all that. So most towns have figured out a way of having rebates or trade-ins or something to that effect. We found 4 companies that so we reached out to some landscaping companies. They asked their opinions on this, and we had 4 companies that are strongly, 4 out of 4. One of us found were strongly opposed, worried about cost of transition, the efficiency of the work. And we found there are 3 landscaping companies in the area, none of them are in Branford specific, that use battery operated. Madison is a second generation company that transitioned from gas. They've been in operation over 50 years. They have made the transition from gas power to battery operated. And I have a call into them to find out how they made out, but we haven't done it. Then we looked at towns in Connecticut that have transitioned, so Greenwich, Stamford, Norwalk, Westport, Washington, and Ridgefield. They all of them but one have. You can't hear? Oh, sorry. I'm soft-spoken.
Do your best.
Maybe if I stand up, I'll project. So all of these have seasonal bans on the use of gas powered. The earliest starts on May 15th, and the latest goes to October 15th. And when they're not banned during those periods, there's time bans. You can only use them from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 to 3 on Saturday, and none on Sunday and holidays. Learned that the keys to a successful restriction is to phase in, don't ban them tomorrow, help with the initial cost of the transition, the town should lead the way, and have equal reinforcement. So you can't have one company cheating and another company following the ordinance, and that would be unfair competition.
So, Richard, one question I had was, it would seem, I think, helpful to the committee if at some point if you can locate a company that has done a transition successfully and have a conversation with them, if they would be willing to come in, either give you a very detailed your working group description of the transition that you could give to us, or actually come in and testify in front of the group as to what their experiences had been. I think that would be helpful information to have, and it would be probably helpful to have more than one group that had done this, if you can find multiple groups that have tried to make that transition.
Mr. Chair, there is
Yes.
a member, a landscaper in the audience tonight who has tried and will let us know.
We'll hear about that. Thanks. So, a couple of things. I gave the committee some thoughts I had about types of research and thoughts that they might consider in moving forward with investigating this, and I'll leave that amongst the committee. But one thing in particular was that we're basically talking about encouraging a change in behavior here, and there are multiple ways of achieving that, either individually or in combination, but obviously education in general is one aspect of making this transition. I think educating people that are service providers and use leaf blowers to the fact that essentially they are breaking the law with their employees by not providing the protective gear that they need to. I know this isn't, nobody really does this, but in fact is an OSHA requirement. So the fact that they do have a responsibility to their workers, I think, is something educationally that they should know. Incentivization is another aspect of doing this. That can be done on a state level or on a town level, basically to help in some form with the financial burdens of making the transition in the beginning. Is another aspect that we could look at, and I think could be discussed. I will bring out, some members of the audience may already know this, but apparently the legislature right now is in fact looking at a bill relative to leaf blowers with a whole series of criteria. The one of the end point or end criteria on this is that there, after 5 years, there would be an outright ban altogether on the use of gas-fired leaf blowers in the state. So I think that having the committee keep tabs on where that's going certainly is something that we need to understand, both where it's going, what the nature in more detail. I have the actual House bill that's been proposed here, and I'll give everybody access to it so you can take a look at it. But as we're looking at this, we need to understand what may be done on the state level and how that might change what we do here, or what types of things we consider doing here.
That'll also be helpful with research.
Yes,
Because there'll
definitely.
be lots of presentations at the state level.
And the third method of changing behavior is what we're here essentially proposing, or having requested to look at, which is regulation in some form. And this can be done with a whole series of different types of restrictions. They can be detailed, certain time frames, certain parts of the year, etc. It's not just a singular, doesn't necessarily have to be a singular ban. It can be, a series of partial restrictions on when this type of equipment can be used or not be used. So we have something that can be addressed, as I say, I think with multiple multiple approaches. As a committee, I think we even though the last one, regulation, is what we think we're looking at here, there's no reason why we can't also take into consideration proposing changes that deal with incentives, or changes that deal with education in part or in total with this. Those are alternatives that could be looked at. But as I say, I think that for the committee going forward, looking at, from my point of view, I think if you could look at firms that have done this successfully and do have a positive experience and over time, and bringing that back to the committee, that would be an important piece of information to know. Tracking the House bill and how that's working and what the details of that are, and how that might impact on Brantford is another thing that might be done. And the third would be just to look if you do see various forms of educational output that the town could make. In addition, would be something you could bring back to the committee.
Yeah, I believe in that bill they have a refund component where people can trade in their gas power.
Yeah, they have a refund and they have a loan. I think there's a loan, also a loan component to it. But there's a lot of details here. I think that we have to start by just understanding all aspects of this. The people that are proponents of this, understanding why they're being proponents of it, what the science is behind that is one thing. Understanding what the challenges are for people that are in business and using gas-fired leaf blowers are feeling, and thirdly, possibly bringing together people who've been successful and people who feel they wouldn't be successful in doing this, and maybe having some discussion between them, or all possible courses of action. John?
I think there's actually a third element here that's really very important. There are several towns that have done various forms of ordinances. We need to find out what they do for enforcement and how that's working out. And so, there's test cases out there for, if Westport doesn't allow them from, 5 in the morning until 6 in the morning, whatever, who's enforcing that, and how's that gone?
Just for the sake of the committee, I've set up a Dropbox for all the files that we might gather input on this. I will give you, I think I may have already sent out a link, but I'll give you a link to it if you want to go and look at it. The structure of it is changing. I'm putting in various folders so you can see, for instance, there's a folder for municipal ordinances if you want to look at what other towns have done in terms of ordinances, you could see those. I have a file folder for letters of support. A lot of the people, I think, in the audience have submitted emails to me saying that they are proponents of actually taking this kind of an action. So, and vice versa, if there are people that want to send in emails where they're not in support of this and the reasons why, we'll add that in and we'll record it for our records so we can look at it. There is a folder for the initial request that was made to have us look at this. There's a lot of information that now you're getting to me about the economic comparisons between operating with gas-fired and not operating with gas-fired. So I have a folder, and you can look at the people that have submitted documents, showing various analyses of economic comparisons. And I have another folder for called blower exchange, which basically is what the state has done in the past and what they're proposing now. If you want to look at the bill, you can actually see what's being put forward right now in process, which we'll track. But my point is that this information is available to you if you get me documents that you find of any sort, and if people in the audience send me documents, we'll put them all into that. They don't just disappear. It's available to the working group. It'll be available to the whole entire committee as we move forward on this. So just wanted to mention that's available.
Will they then be part of the public record?
They will be part of the public record.
Okay.
And anybody that really is interested in looking at that, I don't see any reason why I can't give you access to those, either individual folders or the whole series of files. Dan?
Most of what the chairperson, Representative Henschel, talked about, and you've suggested that the subcommittee look at, involves steps that are taken after the enactment of an ordinance, as opposed to whether or not an ordinance should be enacted or not. So my question to Richard and the subcommittee is, it appears, while there's noise issues involved, it appears the primary motivation to move this is the public health and the health of people that use it, and the cancer-causing agents. And I'm always concerned that sometimes correlation doesn't equal causation. Just like X-rays, that radioactive things will do that, microwaves do. So has there been any discerning or looking into the issue as to whether or not the levels that are, do you have any data to show that the levels that are being emitted that are causing such concerns have a causation to ill effects on people with the use of with the blowers themselves? And if there's I'm not looking for an answer if it does or it doesn't. I'm just throwing out there that correlation is not causation, and I think that needs to be looked at. That while things may have some ingredients that are legal, but overconsumption of those that are, to make it oversimplify, may cause ill effects to one's health, there are certain levels that may not and be acceptable pursuant to whatever governmental regulations they have that allow that. And I use the X-rays as just a dumb but simple example, or a microwave again. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that correlation doesn't cause causation.
Richard, before you answer that,
information in these gas blowers that may have agents that can be harmful to people, it's important to discern whether or not what the levels are, whether there is any causation to people that use the blowers causing the problem.
I wanted to first keep this within the committee for some discussion. But one thing I would point out, and I'll ask the committee this, is that I know in the audience we have a couple of people that want to actually present some information, research information, and we can either hear that first, if you want to, we can hear that first and then bring it back and have some discussion with the benefit of having looked at that, or if you want, we can ask some questions and have some discussion first and then go into a public presentation. Do you have any
I have a question.
preference? Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out why the leaf blower is becoming such a problem. Why the leaf blower? Why not motorcycles or dump trucks or buses in the city or any other
Causation.
pollutant.
Why don't I,
9 hours a day.
yeah, I think that,
Why the lowly leaf blower that is causing so much trouble?
I mean, within the committee here, we're not proponents of this either way. We're trying to get information.
Yeah.
And I think that if we heard from one of the presenters that actually has some information about what the incentive for doing this was, and maybe to answer your question with questioning them why that might take precedence over a whole bunch of different things that we could prioritize.
Okay.
I don't know that we can answer that in the committee, is basically what I'm saying.
I'd go with the presentation.
Pardon?
I'd like the presentation.
You'd like a presentation?
I just want to know if the town has any kind of ban on their equipment that they use.
Public
Right
Works.
now, no.
Public Works,
I mean, that could
Parks
be,
and Rec.
that could be part of our ordinance.
That would have to be.
That
If
could
you're
be
gonna- if you're gonna take it
could
away
be the
from
only thing in our
private,
ordinance.
you gotta
that's
take it
the
away
thing.
from
If you're
public.
gonna take it away
You're gonna take it away, you
from
gotta
the
take it from
contractors,
everybody,
then you gotta go
right down the road.
cut everybody right off at the knees.
I mean, one of the things that the state bill that's being looked at is proposing is that the towns first take this up from the
Lead by
municipal,
example.
and lead by example in doing this. So
Well,
that's
that's
a
the only way
component
to
of
Yeah.
that bill.
And the other thing is, you know, we're trying to take traffic enforcement off of the police. Now you're gonna take traffic enforcement off the
We're gonna
police,
give them leaf
but
blowers.
now you're gonna give leaf blower enforcement.
No, they wouldn't necessarily
They
have.
wouldn't be police.
We're not proposing that.
They would have.
That's why,
But do you
that's
know
why
how-
I raised the issue a moment ago about what is happening enforcement-wise in the
But
town.
that's how it sounds. It sounds
Yeah,
like
no, we have to look at it.
you're gonna send, you know, Brantford's guys are out, you know, trying to figure out
Here comes the police.
people getting their cars broke into, and then they gotta worry about, you
Yeah,
know.
we've had two things. We've had conversations about the enforcement issue in
Yeah.
general on our ordinances,
On all the
and we know
ordinances.
that there has to be some work done to improve on the ability of the town to enforce its ordinance. We also know, in talking with the police chief, what they, even though legally they have the ability to enforce any of our town ordinances,
Yeah.
they don't really want to enforce most of them. They don't want it to be under their purview to have to enforce it. They want an enforcement officer separate from it. And we, at least from the point of view of the people that were looking at the enforcement issue, have pretty well accepted the fact that we wouldn't be asking the police on any enforcement issues to add enforcement to their, of any of these regulations.
And the other thing is, you know, I'm sure these folks are gonna tell you about the cost, like, because we looked up the cost of a commercial electric lawnmower rider or stand-on, and they're like anywhere from $24,000 to $35,000, $40,000. I mean, you're talking about redoing their whole thing, and where in the town are we gonna have the money to stimulate the transition for the folks to do that?
I mean, one of this partly goes into Trish's, I'll get to you in a minute when we get to the public. Trish's comment about why this is opposed to a million other things that we might be looking at. And a question I had was that we're talking about a specific type of equipment, which is two-cycle, small, gas-fired engines. And it's not just leaf blowers that use this. Chainsaws use it, weed whackers use it. They all make, chainsaws are probably even worse in terms of noise, and weed whackers make just about the same amount of noise in general. So one question I would have for us to consider is, are we really just, focusing on one particular piece of equipment as opposed to a slightly bigger issue?
Pandora's box.
I don't want to expand the problem here, but it is a question that I would bring up. So my initial question is, do you want to hear a presentation first? And
Yes,
then
please.
we can.
Might as well get through that.
So what I would like to ask, I know that I think Adrian in the audience has a presentation, and he was among the few individuals that initially had proposed that we look at this. He put together a presentation of information for us, and so I would ask you if you'd like to come up and give that presentation, and then we can bring it back and have some discussion.
So I'm Adrian Corey. I know some of you here, but not all of you. My wife and I have lived in Short Beach. This is my wife, Laurie. We've lived here 20 years, so we're not really, permanent residents yet, but we feel that we know the place. And maybe, 3 or 4 years ago, we started to talk to local people, homeowners in Short Beach and here in Brantford, about the problem that we were experiencing, which is the aggravation. Short Beach, houses are really tightly packed in. So we were getting, in the fall, really a lot of noise. And so we started to look at this. What does this actually mean? And I put this presentation together.
Tell me your address in Short Beach.
84 Riverview Avenue.
Oh, up on top.
Yeah, up on top.
Yep.
I live in Short Beach.
Oh, okay. Tiny little house, modest house. No $1 million mansion. So, over the years, we've put a number of presentations together to talk about this topic, just to share our thoughts and to give people a little bit more of an information package of how this works. So let's see if I can get this to work. Everybody see that? Controller. That's me. Okay. So this is a package of information. We put a lot of effort into digging into the issues around gas-powered leaf blowers. That's very specific. We're not looking at lawnmowers, we're not looking at chainsaws, we're not looking at outboard motors, we're looking at leaf blowers. So our information comes.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Our information comes from a lot of scientific data, economic data, and really peer-reviewed, authoritative research. So this is not our opinion. It's fact. What we're talking about is going to be fact. Our goal is to improve the health and the safety and the well-being of everybody in Brantford, including professional landscape workers. We're not just talking about homeowners, we're talking about the community. So I split this presentation into 3 parts. The problems as we perceive them, or we hear and we understand them about leaf blowers, equipment solutions, and lessons learned. So let's start. This is where we started, just basically with the disruptive, intrusive experience that we suffered in Short Beach. But the impact really, when you start to think about it, and I'm going to get into the health side and the noise side, but if you're a night shift worker, or you're a homeschooler, or you're working at home, or you're a senior, or you are immunocompromised, these are the categories of humanity that this affects. Now, when we first started this, we didn't really know much, or I didn't really know much about noise, but I started to look at it. And loud noise really is dangerous. It's a fact. And I think you in the corner there, sorry I don't know your name, but you were talking about data. So, gas-powered leaf blowers routinely exceed 100 decibels. It's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact.
The standard, the highest powered gas blower you can buy right now is 80 decibels.
That may be a standard that
the OSHA limit is 90.
Let's keep. I don't want to have rebuttals to
It's
things.
just, we're one-sided here.
No, we're not. We're going to give you an opportunity to speak. But
Absolutely, you're going to be.
we're hearing.
I'm happy to answer questions as we go along.
Yeah.
The CDC recommends a maximum of 50 minutes of unprotected exposure. EPA the community noise standard by the EPA is a maximum of 55 decibels. So that exceeds your point anyway.
That's for the operator.
No.
Yes.
Hold on.
Over distance, it declines.
Hold on.
Look up the ANSI standard.
Hold on.
That's for the worker.
This is the community noise standard. EPA community noise standard. This is the recommendation. Nothing to do with a leaf blower, nothing to do with anything mechanical, no equipment. People within a 200-foot radius of a crew risk a hearing loss as a consequence of that. So, what noise does in terms of health is set up over here. It's cardiovascular problems, kidney problems, Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetic. All of that is a component of or a result of the effect of loud noise. So you can't ignore it. We come to something else which we're all familiar with. Pollution of toxic particles. The two-cycle engine that was mentioned a moment ago spews out all of this. The hydrocarbons, the PM 2.5, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. It's a fact.
So is the home heating oil being burned.
Can you, wait,
Guys,
I do
you're
not
definitely
want,
gonna have a chance.
Give you a chance.
I don't want to have a conversation.
I know, please, we're gonna give you equal opportunity, believe me.
Yeah.
So it's not just out of the back, it's not just the emissions, it's what happens because of the velocity of the air, right? So it's pushing up into the atmosphere all of this muck. Pesticides, herbicide chemicals, the heavy metals, lead, for example, fungi, feces, pollen, mold, and dust. So what happens? All that affects all of these people. It also affects this guy. It also affects you. You're suffering from this. Then there's the emission, the detail of what the emission actually does to the community. All the emissions really are very dangerous. EPA and the World Health Organization, their research has told us that all these emissions from two-cycle engines affect or impact asthma, lung infection, reproductive effects, heart disease, and premature mortality. Again, these are all authoritative, well-researched, scientific data results. The high-risk groups for all of this are the landscapers, primarily the landscapers. But it also involves children, the elderly, heart and lung conditions, and pregnant women. Then there's another issue, which is a little bit more high level. Climate change and greenhouse gases. We all know that the two-stroke engine is very inefficient. Around 25 or 30% of the emission, the gas, that the exhaust, is unburned, doesn't get burned, like a conventional motor car engine, four-cylinder engine. Two-cycle engines have not changed since they were invented, virtually. They have not been developed. They're lovely, they're cheap, they're easy to maintain, they're hugely inefficient. This is an example that's often quoted. So, you think small is beautiful, you think this guy with his leaf blower, it's a small two-cycle engine, backpack, he's pushing out all the hydrocarbons and the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Half an hour of his work is the equivalent of driving nearly 4,000 miles in this pickup in terms of the output. All of that helps us up here in a very bad way, right? Because all of this gas is being trapped in the atmosphere. So, there's another issue, which is a little bit more esoteric or a little bit more emotional, but it's an issue. leaf blowers really do impact wildlife in a negative way. We really do need our insects. And farmers will tell you we need our insects. They're foundational to plants, wildlife and human well-being. And you know, the bottom line is leaf litter is not actually waste, it's not trash. It's a natural product, and it's kind of essential to the ecosystem. So now we just look very quickly at alternative equipment, or solutions, shall we say, equipment. If you're running a gas-powered leaf blower, sure, you need this stuff. You need ear protection, breathing protection, and so on. OSHA recommend, or they mandate protection above 85 decibels. That's the law. If you exceed that, you get fined. Doesn't happen, of course, but that's the law. Landscapers work in that range. The N95 masks and respirators do help, but they can't filter everything. They're not effective against toxic chemicals, carbon monoxide, and other VOs, other volatile organic compounds. So you're breathing that stuff in. If you're using one of these, you have no protection. The only way you'll do it is with a forced air respirator. How many landscape workers have we seen working with a forced air respirator? It doesn't happen. So, okay, we go over. Let's look at the electric. This is another alternative. Electric leaf blowers. Here's 6, and these are all backpack, professional level leaf blowers. A Newton is a good way of expressing the power. I mean, it's how much energy is needed to shift 1 kilogram of weight for a second squared, per second. But it's just a relative value. Let's not worry about the science behind it. But for example, here's a small Greenworks, rated at 25 newtons, not expensive. And here's an expensive 26 newton leaf blower, $1,400, expensive. So there are a couple of popular gas leaf blowers, the steel. Both of them are cheap, $600, $650, $500 and $650. The idea that electric backpack professional leaf blowers don't match the power of gas leaf blowers is irrelevant. They do. These now match, and the data exists. The data's there. Let's look at the implication very briefly. It's expensive to buy an electric leaf blower. No one's going to deny that. We know that. It's much more expensive than a gas leaf blower. Much more expensive in some cases. The noise impact is worse. We know that. That's kind of obvious. The health effect is worse. We just covered that. The power output is about level. I see some shaking heads. Look at the data. Look at the data. And
Show
you'll
it.
see.
You buy that one, I'll take mine. We'll see.
I don't want to run one of these. I don't want
you
to
can
run
run
this
the
at all. I'll give you, the data's available. We can show you the data. As far as wildlife is harmed, all leaf blowers are not great, right? The electric ones are a little bit better because they're less powerful sometimes. As far as the environment's concerned, the gas powered leaf blower is worse. As far as operating cost is concerned, the gas powered leaf blower is much worse than the electric version. So, here's a simple graph. You buy a steel BR800 for about $600. You run it 5 years. You buy an Echo DPB, expensive, $2,400. You run it for 5 years. This is going to cost you $1,300 a year to run. You may not think it, but it does, because you're unrealistic about the cost of maintaining it, and about the fuel, and about repairing it. This costs around $100 a year to run. This graph doesn't include batteries, admittedly. No batteries. Let's leave them aside for a moment.
Because the batteries are $500 a piece.
Just wait. Just wait. So what this means is that after 18 months, you start to save if you're running an electric. And over 5 years, you're saving between $4,000 and $5,000. So, if we, at a macro level, gas leaf blowers are coming down in cost, are going up in cost. All gas products are going up in cost due to emissions control and cost of manufacture. And all electric products are coming down in cost because of scale and the fact that they're being adopted, mass adoption. So, let me go back and just stress this again. This is data. This isn't opinion. It's not my opinion. This is what we have researched. A group of us have researched and looked into and found the papers that support all this. So batteries are shifting from the people that use them in the profession. They're much more to do with less to do with a consumable product and more to do with a capital asset. It means that they're not thought of, it's not a fuel. The battery is an asset to you. The battery is an asset to the people that own them and run them. So what's happening from the research that we do is that crews stop thinking about battery life and instead about operating hours, the time that you can get out of the battery. It's not about the
time management consumers to the homeowner. That's time management is the homeowner.
More or less, yes.
That's the homeowner. So when you're there with a regular backpack for 5 hours.
Let's come to
Let's let him finish. And we'll give you a chance to talk.
So let's just talk about our lessons. Lessons learned. So across the US, a couple of hundred municipalities have actually enacted some kind of control over gas-powered leaf blowers, or leaf blowers in general. If we look at what's happened up here in the Northeast, this is just some of the control ordinances that are in place. The top line, Norwalk, Stamford, Westport, Greenwich, they're all Connecticut.
How expensive.
Interestingly, Rye, 2 weeks ago today, just enacted this ordinance. And that's just in our corner, that's the northeast corner of the US. So, again, this is research data. The initial concerns that landscape professionals had. Let's break them out. Before an ordinance and after an ordinance. Capital cost was always the hurdle, always viewed as prohibitive. Front-loaded it is, definitely, but manageable over time. Operating cost, always underestimated for gas-powered leaf blowers. It's always the story you hear. I can understand why, but it's always underestimated. Much, much lower for leaf blowers after an ordinance. Productivity. The professional sector believed that productivity would collapse with the introduction of electric leaf blowers. It dipped, yes, but temporary, and it recovers. Again, this is data. This is research information. Health and safety. If you're running a gas-powered leaf blower, your only option is to use PPE. You've got nothing else to use. You're going to have a mask or a face mask or ear defenders. No problem if you're running electric.
They don't emit any noise?
They are quieter. Oh,
Okay.
you saw that. Customer reaction is a big one. Always expected a backlash. Always expected we're going to have a lot of problems. Whereas in fact, the market normalized rapidly. It took a little time, it took a season, but it normalized. Contractor survival, critical. Again, the profession thought that there would be mass exits. Yes, some exits, some limited exits, but they were concentrated in certain sectors, in certain kinds of businesses. Again, this is data that is...
Is all your data cited at the end of this?
Say again?
Is all your data cited at the end of this?
No,
Where it's from?
I can get that for you. I don't have it here on the
Okay.
screen. No, it's not. Right. So, before adoption, landscapers fear an existential risk. This is everything that is always commented on. After adoption, most impacts prove transitional, so it takes time. This is an important slide because it talks about the actual outcome of the result of introducing an ordinance. What worked well? Phased introduction of ordinances. Phase them in over time. Provide contractor-specific financial support. Grants, buyback. Pilot programs before enforcement, so that speaks for itself, I think. And a municipality-led electrification first program. We heard that, I think, from the committee a moment ago. If Branford leads the way, then the contractors will follow. But if Branford doesn't lead the way, it's a hell of a sight more difficult. What didn't work? Immediate bans. Doesn't work. Don't do it. No financial assistance. If there is no financial assistance, it doesn't work. An ordinance does not work. Weak enforcement. We heard about enforcement a moment ago. We have to have a level playing field. Don't ignore the charging that's required. The charging options for batteries is a critical element of conversion and transition. And if you don't distinguish between homeowners and professionals, again, there's a problem. Treat the homeowner and the professional differently. And if you enforcement before a mature product availability, that doesn't work well. So enforcement is an issue. Everybody understands enforcement's an issue.
What do you mean by treat the homeowners differently than professionals? What does that mean?
A homeowner will not use a professional backpack. They will use a handheld device. So the timing of implementation, the duration, the location will be very different. It's a business for the landscape profession. Obviously, it's a business, but for the homeowner, it's not a business. It's a device. It's a tool.
Type of, does it have the same dangerous aspect to it?
Much less so. This is the last slide, and it's interesting. Some of the points that came up through the research. Professional landscapers who adopted electric options early managed to gain advantage. in a way, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Quiet, friendly, customer friendly, quiet zone, zero emission. So there's that option. Businesses that initially expressed skepticism often reported a neutral to positive operating margin. Not about profit, but it's about margin. So that never decreased. It either stabilized or it got bigger. Kind of interesting. Noise reductions enabled earlier start times, so they extended the working day. Fewer neighbour complaints and fewer work stoppages. Sure, that's a familiar story. Last point. Contractors reported fewer hearing complaints, less fatigue, and much better worker satisfaction amongst their crews.
Thank you. So what I'd like to ask us to do next is, I know a bunch of you have some thoughts against doing this type of regulation, and if you could pick one of you to be a spokesman and try to sum up what your thoughts are, why you think we shouldn't be doing this. If you want to contest something that you heard here that you don't agree with, you can let us know. But I'd like to try to keep this. I don't want this night to go on forever. And we've had, I think, a pretty good presentation of the points that people that are for doing this feel are appropriate for us to know about. Obviously, there's a lot of background, the research they've done that we don't have, that they're talking about, but we actually don't have. That's something the committee may want to get. But if one of you wants to come forward and sit and give us your thoughts,
I have.
you pick between you and come up. If you could come up and yeah,
please.
Come on up here, please.
Thank you, sir, for your presentation. That was pretty nice. Okay. First, I'd like to address your point about the cost of a lawnmower. If everybody in here has a phone, could you Google a 60 mark, X mark riding lawnmower, series S or X, time out. If you could Google that, see the cost of what that costs compared to a $60,000 commercial electric riding lawnmower. Electric. That's for the town.
Can I ask you a question? Why are you talking about lawnmowers?
Because if you gotta do one, you gotta do them all.
No, we don't.
I'm just in general. I just wanted to address his point about cost efficient, how it's cost efficient for electric. I get it.
No, we're not talking about
We're just talking about
Okay,
a particular
so
type
let's go
of
over the
equipment.
cons. Let's go over the cons of electrical.
We're not talking about lawnmowers.
And this right here is
We're talking
facts.
about
Well, that's absolutely ridiculous.
This came off of a website, and you could all,
Give it down.
Sure is.
Cons of electric landscaping equipment, mowers, backpacks, and etc. Number one, the battery can possibly heat up in direct sunlight. It could leak and swell and cause an explosion or immediate fire.
That we can't put out.
That we cannot put out. The charging ports that we need for the batteries, we would have to legitimately buy 4 batteries for each backpack to get us throughout the day. So there's our financial burden. If we didn't do that, we would have to bring those battery charging ports with us to the homeowner's address, ask them to use their electrical outputs, inputs, whatever it may be, to charge our batteries on their property to complete the task at hand, which is a timely, fashionable time to get the job done. As the job prolongs, the homeowner tends to spend more, which we're not in it for that. We're going to do our job efficiently, quantity, quality, get in, get out, and do the best we can. lithium batteries should never be charged in the sun, direct sunlight, nor should they be contained inside of a hot truck throughout hot periods of time throughout the summer. It could also cause swell, leak, and cause damage to any person touching the leakage or the perception of what's inside of the lithium batteries if they explode or catch on fire. Possible charging ports, if we bring them with us and we get caught in a rain, or we get caught and we're already behind and types of areas are wet, the charging ports are wet, putting the battery in wet, that's going to cause, possibly while you're charging at someone's house, an electrical problem. Okay. The battery operated backpacks that you had mentioned. In cold temperatures, the capacity of that backpack, that's $2,400, $1,700, $1,800, goes from 100%, like our gas-powered equipment does. It could be, we use our backpacks in snow. If it's under 3 inches and it's very light, we blow the snow because it's quicker, it's faster, it saves the homeowner, the commercial properties, a ton of money. It reduces 60 to 70% from 100%. That's 40% of the capacity that we need to get our job done, especially, as I just mentioned, in a snowstorm. It's not fun. If it's 2 to 3 inches, all of us use our backpacks because it's quicker. Instead of starting up a snow thrower, yes, they require gas. It's just quicker and it's more efficient. In the hot environments, once you take that battery out, and it's a hot day, say it's July, it's 95 degrees, you take that battery out, you need a 10 to 15 minute window to let that battery cool down before you put it back into its charging port. And if you're going to have other batteries, you're either storing those batteries in a hot truck that I had just mentioned, or you're storing them out on the hot piece of property that you're working on. Sun is sun. And they need to be replaced after 2 to 4 years. The batteries will need to be replaced. Every single backpack that we have, every single piece of electrical equipment that we have, will not run on one back. So us, as business owners, have to go out and buy 4 batteries to get through in your time frame between 6 and 5 p.m. or the 10-hour window you're giving us. We need 3 to 4 batteries to make it through that day. And then we have to go home and we have to sit down and watch the batteries like they're children. As they're plugged into the wall, let's see, is my house going to catch on fire? Maybe I should leave them plugged into my shop overnight. Can't be. And then going to your point about loud noises and ordinance, I have 97 lawns. I have 16 on one street in Madison. Yes, it doesn't matter to Branford, but here's my point. I have 3 children that are special needs that are of my customers' children. I have 7 other kids that are on the spectrum. Those children look forward when we pull up. Yes, we do the right thing. We give them the headphone. We put them on our machines. They drive through the neighborhoods with us, without the blaze on, of course. They drive with it, they steer, they run our little backpacks, they even push our roll behind blowers with us. It's not detrimental to them. And we chose, as all of us, I've been a landscaper for 40 years. We chose to get into this, profession. Farmers, I'm a farm boy, right here in Branford, my whole life. We've run everything. I think I've watched my grandfather drink diesel fuel to get through the night. It's unbelievable. You know that. It shows with me too, so give me a break. It's just going to be so much harder for us to maintain everything. I understand it's going to take a little while to turn it over, but the cost process and the batteries, they can't be in heat. They can't be exposed to cold. You have to charge them and watch it. You got to make sure that it doesn't, and the money is astronomical. I have 7 PBT backpacks. I bought one last year, the first one in 6 years. Those are $459 a piece. So that's $3,200 that I've spent in 7 years on my backpacks. I have a roll behind blower that's as old as dust. That thing starts up, one pull. The lawnmower I have, in 5 years, 6 years, from 2020 to now, has gone from $11,000 to $19,000 brand new. Yes, we're in this business. Some of us can't afford that. I have 4 children. Yes, they're older. The school, student loans, all of us have our own separate bills. And when it comes to the homeowner, which is most important, the only way I could put this, the homeowner is gonna get slammed because our job is gonna take longer and because we can't do it in quantity. We have to stay longer on lesser powerful instruments, tools. That's gonna take longer for the homeowner, and their increase of monetaries is gonna go up, rather than us doing more in a day than less in a day. So it's gonna hold us back from completing our task at hand. And when you say to the homeowner, hey, listen, you know, I usually go up $10, $15 every 3-4 years. I gotta go up $100 on your cut. Why? Because I just bought a $45,000 electrical ride lawnmower that needs 2 batteries, and the battery's $3,500. I'm so sorry. That almost puts some of us, like the sour taste in our mouths, that just wants to say, you know what? Just won't do it no more. As an owner, I won't carry the burden. I'll go follow someone else's lead, give up my business, my livelihood, which supports me and my children and everybody else around me. It's a burden it's going to be a massive burden. And this gentleman said it best right here. The towns, yes, they'll turn over once, but instead of the town saying, hey, you know what? Go to Giant Oak and get 3 60-inch lasers for $11,000. Well, why don't you go buy 5 $60,000 electric lawnmowers? That's $300,000 on 5 lawnmowers. That's insanity. The batteries are $400, $500, $600 a piece. The riding batteries are $3,500 to $5,000. The charging, the electrical increase of our bills through our shop. It's the same thing. Plug an electric heater in for a week. That's $200 on your home bill. Plug 4 batteries in. After work, some of us would have to get out early to plug them into our shop and watch them charge and make sure we have 2 ready for the morning, then plug another one in to make it through that day. So it's going to be a backwards duration downfall. As the system goes backwards and allows us or has us get into the battery, our duration is going to take much longer to complete our task, our job, our charging. The disposable of batteries is going to be huge. What are we going to do with these batteries when they're no good? And the sun, it says it. You could look on any website, over the cons. They are not to be in direct cold electrical batteries. They are not. They shatter, they swell with heat, and they don't run as strong as your graphic said. They just don't. I've tried. I've literally tried an electrical backpack from Tractor Supply. Our backpacks that we use, they'll move houses. Because they're strong. And I don't mean it in that bad sense. They're just a very powerful, because that allows us to complete our job for the homeowner. I mean, if we get switched to battery, you're allowing us to lose our pride, because we can't do the quality any longer. You can't go through stuff as fast as you can with the heavier, much stronger backpacks. Of course, most of us, yes, we do wear hearing protection. That's the obvious. And if anybody has a respiratory problem, you pretty much know that from a child. And if you choose to get into a profession that's outside outdoor work, you're going to have breathing problems. you're gonna need a respirator, and I'm all for that. Anybody with any handicap, I'm all for that 300%. But I just know that this is going to be a detrimental thing to all landscapers, everyone. You'll have to downsize, you'll have to uptick in equipment. The batteries aren't gonna last as a, hey, I put mix into my backpack, I ran it for 6 hours, I filled it up again, I got a tank and a half, which is $6 for the day, $7 for the day in gas, $10 a day, that's one backpack. Run 7 of them, it becomes $120 a day. My lawnmower takes $45 a day to fill. That's on us. We chose this profession. So if we gotta go out and buy a $30,000, $45,000 lawnmower, and the lawnmowers that you're looking at are cost efficient, those are homeowner lawnmowers. You're going by the homeowner scale.
I thought we're not talking about lawnmowers.
No, I'm trying to make prices about what electrical do. No, I'm going by what the pay scale.
Gave the other guy a lot.
It's a profession. It's between homeowner and professional. I'll leave it at that. There's a big difference. If you're a homeowner and you'd like to run electric, go feel free. If you don't want any landscapers on your property with gas, that's your choice. But I just want you, if you do have someone taking care of your property, a landscaper, if you do see their bill and it increases because of electric, it's gonna be a problem, because you're like, hey, wait a minute, I've been paying, $1,000 a year for my cleanup, now it's $1,800. My point is, it's just, I don't see any reason in it other than your understanding of the safety features. You're looking out for us as individuals. I get that, but we wear protective stuff all the time. We wear gloves, we wear hats, we wear earmuffs, we wear glasses, because that's OSHA. You have to have your employees wear glasses while they're working, protective wear. So we know that, we're aware of that. This is what it's going to come down to. You're going to get a lot of back, and if you said Branford leads the way, Branford's going to be the fall guy. I mean, well, Branford did it. Look, they started this. I know landscapers. Some of them, one of my guys, he just has big lawns out in Groton or Fieldfair or something, or Newport. He can't go out there. He can't go out there with his gas powers no more. They don't allow him. So that's a process for me. They switch everything over. It cost him $14,000 for 4 backpacks and 4 batteries for each backpack. So it's a big process. It's about us trying to save our pocket and also not hurting our customers and the homeowner that also pay their taxes and everything to this town that we live in. That's a beautiful town. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Does that pretty well sum up what you wanted to say? Or?
Yes, pretty much.
Is there anybody else that has different points that have already been made that you'd like to make against the idea of moving forward? Kind of come forward?
I'm not sure he's against.
I don't know.
I'm Ed Gagliardi from Stony Creek, and I'm sorry I couldn't hear the whole presentation. Are you going to just, if the ban went into effect, just for commercial, or will it be for homeowners too?
We haven't, let's clarify this, we're at the point where we're doing research. We're trying to understand the issues, we're trying to understand the pros and cons so that we can evaluate it. We're not there yet. We haven't gotten that, even though we had a good presentation on both sides here. What we're actually proposing to do in terms of banning all, banning partially, banning different times a year, etc., that would all come as a second step if we decide to continue and look at various forms of regulations. That's a second step. We're not there yet. We're just trying to understand the basics at this point.
In the presentation, when we talk about facts, they talked about how the blowers affect insects. It doesn't really matter, except for the fume part, the blowing of the insects in their beds and stuff. That's going to be whether it's electric or not electric. And number 2, the reason I asked you the question is it says treat the homeowner, consumer, different than the contractor. Number 2 is, my experience has been, when there is something cheaper and better out there that's going to make my business more effective, and I did this for 12 years for a large corporation, we went after it. Sometimes we bought one or something and tried it and then bought $5 million worth of it. So I don't want to use the word insulting, but it's almost insulting assuming that the contractors really had something that today, right now as we sit here, was going to be more efficient and they could make more money. You know, unless they're all oblivious to the world, they would be doing that. So I think that's got to be a consideration. And then if you're not going to do something for the homeowners, is, you know, let's say that some old people, you know, have a gas-powered blower. You're going to tell me I can't use it on my own property? You know, when I go out and do it, I have to buy an electric one? Well, because I happen to be someone who likes to see what happens, I went out and I bought a stick blower one for $200 and something. And I thought I came up with a great idea when we had the light snowfall, very light snow. I went outside with that electric thing and I got down with gloves on and everything. All of a sudden, as I'm doing it, I started getting jolted and the thing shuts off because the power was so small, it got fed back in through the electric system. Wow. So what I'm trying to say, and by the way, it just so happened my neighbor across the street had a contractor come with a gas backpack and cleaned it. Me, I had to go find a shovel, you know, because my electric one didn't work. And that's just a reality. I was so, you can't believe how disappointed I was. So I think you got to see, and number two, when you talk about the consumer, even if you make it rough for them, you know, new rules and regulations, that guy is going to charge me more. I just can see it in his face. Everyone. Can
I be honest? Strictly out of pure spite.
Yeah. and so therefore, there are going to be some local contractors that are all gas today, that if they can't afford it or can't go through the transition to save all that money, which again, mathematically, you really need to see that light at the end of the tunnel. They're going to charge me more to do certain things. And as far as the lead bed not really being a bad thing, I assume the blight guy is not going to come around when I leave all my leaves on the sidewalk and all my leaves on the thing. That nobody's going to complain that I have blight because I have leaves all over. Because I'll do it. I mean, I have no problem leaving leaves because I happen to agree with that. But I don't think society does agree with that. So just think about the consumer and make sure, even if you're, and I don't want to use the word punishing them, but making them do something that they can't see. Hey, if there's a state or federal grant that will give each contractor in the area one backpack, that they try it, it would be obvious after a while that that's a good thing and let them do it. But not my Bradford tax money. But if somebody else wants to do that, I'd love to see them do it. You know, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So is there anybody else? I really would like to limit this to new thoughts. I don't want reiteration of I know that a lot of you are all either for or against, a lot of you are against having the leaf blowers. But if somebody has something new that we haven't been heard and want to add to the conversation, I would like to have that heard, and then I want to go back to the committee and have some discussion within the committee. And I saw your hand up first.
Well, I don't know if this is new, but I do want to say this very quickly, and I will say it quickly. My name is Sue Perez. I live in Pine Orchard, and I forgot your name. Adrian. What you first said about the noise, in Pine Orchard, I feel like all of my neighbors, not us, but all of my neighbors use lawn services, and they all have leaf blowers, and it is very aggravating when you are sitting outside on a weekend, when you've worked all week, and you're sitting outside and you want to read your book and have a relaxing, you know, little quiet time, and then the leaf blowers go on a Saturday. I don't know if they're not allowed on Sundays. I don't know what the ordinance is.
There isn't any ordinance right now.
These ordinances that have been passed in Connecticut, no Sundays.
But right now they are allowed?
Right now there are no restrictions.
There aren't any restrictions.
There are no restrictions in Branford right now.
So Saturday and Sundays, your only days that you're not working, you can relax outside, and you have to hear that. And I'm sorry, Mr. Gagliardi, but you know, as a society, we evolve and we want to be safe, and we want to, and not just for you if you don't care about your safety, but we do care about pollution, and we do want to make things better for our society. And it's not all about just, getting things done faster for the homeowner who wants the manicured lawn. We have a society that we're trying to protect and a world that we're trying to protect, and that's important. And I'm sorry that it's going to cost some more money, and I agree. If we could do grants, I would be all for that, like solar energy. They give tax breaks for that. If we could do something for the contractors to help them out, but we do have to think about something and also motorcycles. Why aren't we a motorcycle and without the muffler? I think, are they illegal without a muffler? But they go, they're gone. You hear it and they're gone. The leaf blower is there for hours. They go from one house to another house to another house. So
Thank you.
That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Would you like to add to the conversation?
On the weekends, and some of the surrounding neighbors also don't want the work done. So out of respect, if I have 3 days of rain.
Okay, can we keep you can just talk after the meeting if you'd like, but I'd like to move on.
I'm Gordon Hutchinson. I'm a retired physician. I'm Vice President of the Land Trust. I just want to say a few words about what's been said here. Noise pollution is real. It's recognized by NIOSH and OSHA. It's a workplace hazard in landscaping, as we've heard. OSHA recommends hearing protection. Anything over 70 decibels is going to hurt your hearing. There's no question about that. If we can reduce it with electric blowers, we should do it, not only for the landscapers, but for the rest of the population. There was a question before, why leaf blowers? Because leaf blowers, it's a quantity thing. They've just, the numbers of leaf blowers are using it to clear snow now. So there's no seasonal escape. It's just all the time. And it's something that affects everybody, not just the homeowner who's hired the landscaper. I live on Tyler Avenue. There are 10 houses, 2 landscapers, but you cannot do anything even indoors when everybody's getting their lawns done. So it affects everybody, whether you have a landscaper, which I don't, but everybody around me is being manicured. So it's something that's affecting everybody, whether you hire a landscaper or not. So I submit that this noise has not only affected ourselves, but other things in the biosphere, namely birds. You can imagine they must interfere with just listening for predators, but they also attract mates with songs that are now drowned out. Birds exposed to chronic noise are smaller, have feather growth that's less, lower hatching success, and don't live as long. So we have not only an insect problem, we have a bird problem that's related to chronic noise, and the number of leaf blowers is not going down, it's going up. So anyone is either close to a 2-cycle engine knows it's not good for you. And these guys are there for 8 hours. We run small cycle engines and 2-cycle engines as well, but we do it intermittently, just as homeowners do it intermittently, using a chainsaw intermittently. But using it for 8 hours, you're really going to be inhaling things that are not good for you. And as it's number 5 in the OSHA list of disease-causing complaints, and yet I rarely see landscapers wearing masks, and I think that's true. So in summary, moving the landscaping industry, as someone's just been saying, to an electric standard for leaf blowing will be less expensive in the long term. Even steel has a comparison that Adrian has given us. It will reduce the harms of noise pollution on our environment and give us cleaner air to breathe in the bargain. So let's join the ranks of communities that are moving to an electric standard.
Thank you. Josh, you want to say something?
I just wanted to, since our last meeting, I met with some of the departments on budget stuff, and one of the departments I met with was the rec department, and I asked them how many leaf blowers they had, and we believe, I didn't talk to the lead maintainer, but that they have 3. So, I mean, I'm going to need your help with this, but my intention is to get 3 battery-powered leaf backpack blowers for the rec department. We'll start there, because right, the town needs to participate, but also it would be a working sort of example.
How quickly do you think you might do that, and when could we get some feedback on how that's working
Well,
out?
I would love to do that today, except for I need you guys to give me the money.
You need to ask us for it.
I think you said something about not Branford's taxes. I think that was in the.
I didn't want to.
I think that was in the speech.
But I have to look at the money that they have in their accounts, and but full disclosure, that is my intention. We'll start with the rec department, and I figured it to cost probably around the neighborhood of $7,500 with backpacks and batteries, because I think they would need extra batteries for each operation. They wouldn't have the ability to.
The gentleman back there said it takes 4 batteries to run.
They wouldn't have the ability to charge because they're not near a house, and I'm not having to drag it. So you might get that request unless I can find the money in there immediately. If I can find the money in their budget somewhere, but then you're still going to have to backfill it because they won't have that come July. But we'll have a larger conversation, and it's not going to be next week because they're not going to snow whether it's not.
Well, make the request, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, I'd like to bring this back into the committee the moment and public discussion. And I'm going to offer my thoughts first. But the things, obviously, there's a lot of information that was presented that people who were against or not proponents of doing this take issue with, or questioning whether it's really legitimate or correct, etc., and vice versa. I think there's information that the gentleman that talked, about the negative aspects on his business of using electrified equipment would have. What I'm interested in, and what I think the working group should be focusing on in terms of bringing back new information to us for consideration, is find some commercial operators, more than one, who have made this transition and are using in the full-blown venue on a daily basis. Multiple workers are using electric equipment for leaf blowing, and I would like to have them come in and actually explain to us what their experience has been, whether it's been positive, negative, neutral, whether they've had help or not in terms of assistance in making that transition. But I'd like to see the experience of people who have actually done this, because otherwise we're just conjecturing. We're possibly creating an ordinance that's going to force people into an activity that we really don't know the consequences of. So to me, that's important information. The other thing that I think is really important for us to take a look at is pick a couple of towns that have ordinances that you view as sort of being typical of the range of ordinances that are out there. Get information about how those ordinances are articulated, and go reach out to the community and try to find out what the community's experience has been, both enforcing it and having compliance with it from a community point of view. What issues have they seen? What kind of feedback from the general population have they seen, etc. But so before we move forward in deciding where we want to head with this, I really think it's important for us to get those two pockets of information so that we can put that relative to all the information that's been thrown at us today. And I would remind you that I think a lot of the documentation that we're saying, pricing comparisons, operating comparisons, that I think Steele may have made, where they've been submitted to us, they're in the Dropbox. So you can go, if you want to go and actually review the documentation that is supportive. And if you have more documentation that we don't have, get it to us. We'll put it in there. The committee can actually look at it as background information. But I think those are the two tasks I'd like to see the working group do moving forward. And I think the other thing we need to do is to track the status of what the state is doing with the bill that they're looking at right now. Both understand what's in the bill and how it's being run through the legislature in terms of comments, progress, etc. But before we get both those things in play and understand them, I don't think that we would be in a position even to start to articulate, any aspect of a move forward here. And I'd suggest we do that.
So I just want to make it clear to everybody that it has never been mentioned about riding lawnmowers, ever. We're talking about leaf blowers, 2-stroke engine leaf blowers. Riding lawnmowers have never been.
I think that was just being used to illustrate somehow the comparison, but yes, we're not talking about that.
I didn't mean to single you out in any possible way.
Are they gonna be next?
No.
No, but Sean was agreeing with you.
Well, yeah.
We talked about it.
You think we're talking about leaf?
I'm wondering why we're not. What's the difference?
You thought it's
I was
2-stroke
mentioning
engine.
that you were gonna get.
Some of them are.
Lawnmowers for the
Some
town.
lawnmowers are two-stroke.
Not many of the big ones.
But some of them are. So I'm curious as to why we can single out one thing. I mean, what about the squirrels? Are we bothering them too?
Okay.
All the outboard
I don't
engines.
get it.
Wait.
All the outboard
Let-
engines
let's-
on the water. Those
Come
are
on,
2 cycles.
let's not have any more.
4 cycles.
I don't want to hear more conversation. We're having a committee discussion at this point.
I don't understand why one and not the other.
It's a legitimate question.
Thank you.
And another thing is that if these contractors, say they don't have time to go back, one of the things in my brain, because it's not a lot, but I have an idea now and again, is they're going to maybe put a gas powered generator in their trailer to charge said battery. Now it's 100 degrees in the trailer. You got a gas powered generator. You're just waiting for that candle to go off. So I mean, you've got all these variables. I understand what we're trying to do, but like Josh just said, you're talking $7,500 for 3 blowers with 4 batteries each.
The reason that I suggested that we try to get feedback from people that are doing it is because they can tell us all the hypothetical experiences you're talking about possible
Absolutely,
happening.
sir.
They would be able to tell us, yes, that did happen. No, that doesn't really happen. Give us a little bit better idea in reality how it works.
But with Sean's point too is outboard motors, lawnmowers.
I didn't say that.
You've got, or somebody mentioned it. You've got all these other type of 2-stroke things that are going on here. So we're singling out leaf blowers. Okay, now we're going to single it out. We're not going to. We're going to not go after, but we're looking at the commercial folks. So now it's is that going to also transition over? Which that's something I think that's in the packet. Is that going to transition over into residential folks that are doing their own lawns on their days off? And so I mean, this domino effect. And again, are there going to be grants? Is the town going to be able to? If the state's not going to do it, is the town going to give money? Because the way I see it, if a machine's going to cost these guys $1,800, and okay, you'll recoup your money in a year. We don't leaf blow. We're not Florida. We're not running leaf blowers 12 months out of the year. So they're not going. So what if they're not getting the 3 inches of snow and they use it to be cost effective, and we keep getting these storms, or we have a winter like the last 2 or 3, we get 1 snow, it's 6 inches, and nothing else hits. So now it's going to take these folks
2 years.
2 years, 3 years to recoup that money. These are just the things that, with not even calling somebody, that the 3 of us were talking about in our groups. Like, I'm just looking at it that way. An $1,800 backpack, it's going to take you 3 years in theory to get that money back. And like he said, now instead of charging a homeowner $100 or $1,000 for a season, that might go up to $1,800 or $2,000. He's not going to pay that. He'll do it himself. So now you're hurting the guys that are doing the job. Gas powered. And again, to your point, sir, I have a backpack leaf blower. I have an Echo. I have a backpack leaf blower. I have an electric battery leaf blower, and I have a steel handheld.
You're all set.
Guess which one works the best?
Gas powered.
And again, I understand, and your presentation was great. It put all the points out there. But from a residential standpoint, and I've had and the steel stick blower that I have, the thing's 10 years old. Every spring goes to the shop, pay $45. They tune it up. Maybe it's every 2 years I have to worry about tuning it up because it runs. So, and I understand gas and all, but these cats here, and I know you want to say Branford's going to lead the way, we're going to try it with the rec department. But these guys here, that's their bread and butter, and that's gonna hurt them. Yes, sir.
But in the municipality, they don't use them like we do.
Yes. Yes. You're using yours 6 days a week, 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
They blow off the sidewalk at a park.
Or they have set days when they're mowing the lawns, if there's a ball game, if there's an event in the field, something like that. I understand that. You know, and I've landscaped years ago in another life. I've done that. I understand what it is. So I mean, I get it, but this is the stuff in my head that's just I'm looking at for these guys. And again, I'm not saying we're gonna do it. We're not. I'm just looking at just
Cause and effect.
Nonsensical, common sense things without looking at bazillion pieces of paper that are going to show something.
I mean, I think that one thing is we're talking about this at committee that we have to keep in mind is that for all of the hurdles that you're describing,
Yep.
rather than in our thought, we're trying to understand this first. And if we have a hurdle, rather than saying it's a hurdle, therefore, you know, we're not going to move forward, not going to ask any more questions, that every one of the hurdles that we feel, I think the second question should be, is there some form of overcoming that hurdle? Maybe the noise is the real issue, and this is not, you know, focused on the gas-powered engine for it. Maybe it's the time of day that these operators are operating that is one of the real, you know, could be addressed differently from just banning.
You know, I can honestly say, living in Short Beach and living up on Wilcox by Party Park, there's 2 houses up the road that have a landscaper come. They're not there before 8 o'clock, and they're out of there before 8:45.
But there may be other places where that doesn't happen, and that.
No,
maybe
I understand.
Maybe that's what ends up being regulated is
the time,
the windows.
Yeah.
You know, and in terms of your question about the commercial versus residential, I do personally, this is my personal feeling, think that if we developed any kind of regulation here, that there would be a differentiation between how it applied or whether it applied to residential versus commercial operators. I think that it just innately there is an implied difference between those two categories of people, and you know, we can separate them off. So there are a lot of subtleties to this, but you know, I just think that obviously you're very strongly feeling against this, but we need to keep looking at the information and get.
It's not against it, sir. It's just.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's just not practical at this point.
So,
yes.
So we need to. I think to your and that's that. You know, I share that question. That's why I say I would really like to hear from somebody who has, if they have, somebody that's done it.
Right.
It's the practicality of it right now.
Because if we can't find anybody that's done it, then maybe it's impractical. But if we can find somebody that's done it successfully, that might be new information we might want to find out about. I don't know, but it's a question.
And weren't you saying that Guilford has done it, has some regulations like this, and maybe we could also talk to the town's address,
I think Guilford's more of an ordinance, like a time frame ordinance than it is.
Which I would be okay.
So there might be something different.
Yeah, I would be certainly okay with that.
That might be where we end up.
Can I get it?
Yes, John. We're not having any more public comment at the moment. We're talking in committee. I'm sorry.
Are we gonna?
So, I've never owned or operated a leaf blower, and it's been a long time since I pushed a lawnmower.
They're quite fun.
I actually used to have an electric one when I was a kid.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. Sorry? I live in a condo association.
There you go.
And so the first thing that impacts me is that every Thursday, much of the year, more than I would like, there's 4, 5, 6 guys coming in with these leaf blowers, blowing the leaves, blowing the grass, blowing the whatever. I actually hate that. I wish it wasn't there. I'm not going to probably be able to persuade my condo association to do something different. There's a lot of people in there that love the way the grass gets cut. I would just prefer to have it a little higher, and they want the leaves blown away, and I would prefer to have them chopped up and left in place. But I haven't gone out to do battle on that. I just, like every Thursday, oh crap, here they are again. And there's a lot of them all at one time, and it is very, very noisy, and it's aggregating.
And how long are they there for, sir?
It seems to be 3 or 4 hours.
Around your place specifically?
Around enough so that you hear them all. They're somewhere, you hear them.
In the distance?
In the distance, on my front
But
porch.
is it 3 or 4 hours at your condominium, or is it 3 or 4 hours in the entire area?
No, my condominium. It seems to be. Okay, I'm not clocking it,
Yeah,
but
no, I understand.
it's a while. All right, I don't like it. So from that point of view, I'm going, I don't like these things, and I wish we could find some other way to do it. Tonight I heard some cost things from Adrian, but Adrian, you said that you didn't have batteries in that chart you put in. So I want to see numbers that include everything, because if we're going to tell people that, well, this is going to be better economically for the guys that are doing it, and therefore over time and yada yada, we have to be a lot more clear on that than what I thought we were tonight. The idea of some sort of subsidy to move people from one place to another, the commercial people, I'm fully in support of that. We do in this society all kinds of tax benefits to get things done. That is a very common approach. Republicans and Democrats forever have been doing tax benefits, subsidies of all sorts for businesses forever. So if there's something, if we feel like this is something we need to move forward, then there has to be a way to make it work for the guys that are going to bear the brunt here.
Start forcing us.
That happens. People get forced in this society for all kinds of things. Listen, I'm sorry. If you want to buy, excuse me, if you want to buy a car, it comes with a seatbelt.
What was your occupation throughout your career?
I was a banker.
Okay.
So I know dollars and cents. I understand
100%.
that. And
What if
I
you took your calculator away?
Money, you're talking about, it's good.
Wait.
So
Sir, they're altering our whole means of work.
I understand that.
John.
But you're trying to.
Let's not have a conversation.
It's my turn to talk.
Yeah, let's be quiet, please.
It's
Be
my
quiet.
turn to talk.
John's talking. We're not having a
Okay,
conversation
and I'm
here.
just telling you where I'm coming from, and then we can have that conversation later if you want. All right. The last thing that I wanted to address, because I hadn't heard about this before, is the batteries, whether the batteries are in fact dangerous. Now, if batteries are truly dangerous, that's a big problem, and I don't know why then they're in the market. So I need myself to hear more information about the battery side of this equation. So how many batteries do you need? Obviously, you're not going to be charging them at the homeowner. That's ridiculous. You're going to have as many batteries as necessary to get through the day, and they have to be safe. That seems obvious. So I want to see more data on those things, right? I want to see more data on the costs. I want to see more data on the batteries. I want to see if there are ways out there that this could be subsidized. If we come to the point where we say we want to do it, then I want to make sure that the transition makes sense economically for the people who have to do it. Okay? And so that's where I'm coming from.
So I would add that to the working group's request of what we should be trying to gather information.
Sorry?
Transfer station fire.
I know, and you can't take lithium batteries and put them in a bottom of an airplane. I get that. All right. So yes, there are concerns. Clearly, is that a deal breaker? I don't know, and I'm looking for the data.
It would be to the person that got burned up in it.
Of course it would. Of course it would. But yes, of course it would.
There are
But
lot of
that's not,
hazards with,
there are lithium, if all lithium batteries were dangerous, then you wouldn't have them in the marketplace. So,
They wanted-
what Mr. Gagliardi said, there's got to be, there's a risk and a cost, benefit analysis that needs to go
Yes.
on, and I want to see what the data is.
So the tax, there's a tax initiatives and incentives, but who pays that? I do, and I have nothing to do with any of it.
I understand that, and you may not have
The
any
environmental concern. Have you ever seen
you
a
may
lithium
have no
mine?
one in school at this point, but you're still going to pay school taxes. And you may never, have anybody break into your house, but we still pay for police, or we pay for roads on the other side of town. Societies come up with the way they want to run things, and somebody, yes, has to pay for it, and that's what we have taxes for. So we need to decide, is this important enough to do that? I would be in favor of subsidies. Subsidies are not free; they come from the taxes. We get that. You may not want to pay more taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes than I'm paying now, for sure. But maybe there's a benefit to it that I do want, and the benefit then comes with a price. So let's see what the data is, and then make some kind of decision.
And I 100% agree that there wasn't enough data there.
So we need to gather that.
All right, so let's get the data.
So the working group looked at the lithium versus gasoline danger. So it's much more dangerous in terms of fire to have a gasoline engine versus a lithium.
Where did that data come from?
Yeah, because
where's that data?
I never heard anything about that.
So let's get it.
No, actually,
All right.
You didn't.
Yeah. The other thing is, I'm pretty sure, Adrian, your numbers included batteries.
No,
He said they did
No,
not.
They did not.
No, that was not.
Specifically stated that they did not.
So
I
I
think they
think it's a legitimate question is on a lot of these things is we need some definitive background data that's actually sourced. And in terms of the hazard of both the batteries, the hazard of using gasoline and gas-fired engines of a similar type, that ought to be data that's available.
Yeah, it is, and I'll put it in the
You need to get it to the committee and look at it along with these other things. But again, I think there's a lot of information we need to gather, and there are a lot of different courses of action we could take here. It's not just one or the other. There are a lot of subtleties. We can address part of the problem and not all of it, in terms of what the issues are. So the start point is to understand more thoroughly what we're dealing with. And I think looking at where there may have been successes, if there are, looking at them and getting that information back is probably one of the critical start point. Then we can ask the questions once we get that. So
Is there already an ordinance in place, noise ordinance in place for the town?
Yes. The problem with the noise ordinance is twofold right now. Number one, it's virtually impossible to enforce for two reasons. One, because it requires specialized metering to record. Number two, because noise by its normal generation of noise, motorcycles, outboard motors running around, sound, etc., it happens at a point in time, and so it's gone. It's there, and then it's gone.
But do we have something? But do we have something in place for contractors, whether it's landscapers, masons, builders, carpenters?
It's just indicating a decibel limit on noise. It's very generalized and unspecific, and it's not really
But
enforced.
isn't
That's
there
not
something
true.
you can't do something until
Yeah,
8
isn't
o'clock
it
in
you
the
can't
morning?
start between-
You can't mow
you
your
can't start
lawn
before a certain
before
hour.
8 o'clock?
There are some aspects of that in the ordinance, but
7 to 7.
The
Okay.
garbage man can't start it until a certain time.
That's not true.
It is true.
You're not
They're at
supposed
4
to.
o'clock in the morning around my house.
part of this could be looked at by tweaking the noise ordinance to make it more effective, along with enforcement. So that would be one piece of the puzzle.
I mean, for right now, even if we just know what the time ordinance is, like you said, it's 7 to 7. These guys are out there
We can
from
pull
7 to
that.
7. That's okay. There's a start.
So you asked the question. Look at the town ordinance. It's
Yeah,
available. Pull it up.
I
Get those
wrote it.
details from us,
I wrote a bunch of stuff down.
both in general and relative to this particular problem. And let's see whether there are elements of that.
The
that
noise
could be
ordinance
addressed.
is in fact very specific. It has decibel levels that are allowed during certain times of day. They change on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
It's the enforcement side.
Yep.
That is not, Peter
Yeah.
spoke earlier about the
police don't want
the police do
have
not
to take
want to
that
be
role.
involved.
There you go again.
But
It's
the,
enforcement.
And they shouldn't. I mean, I really don't think they should be.
Well, I agree.
Really.
we'll
We
we'll
need an
disagree on that
alternative.
one.
We need an alternative.
Well, we need something.
Well,
Maybe
yeah, an
it's-
alternative to that would probably be better instead of having,
Like your-
one of the officers out,
Yeah, we need a,
with a
we need a
meter.
better
Pulling out-
system
They have
of
those
enforcement
meters, by the way.
officers.
Oh, I know.
Traffic from
Yeah.
the cops, we gotta pull
They
the
don't
ordinance out
use them.
from.
They
we
have
gotta-
them.
We have
They
to
have
build an
them.
ordinance.
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, there is a noise ordinance, and something we could look at.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think that we've laid out quite a workload for you
Yeah.
in terms of gathering information. I'd like to, close out our discussion if it's all right with everybody. This is not something we're going to
Solve today.
determine a course of action on tonight or probably in the next couple of meetings. I think we need a lot more information and feedback. I think it's wonderful if Josh would like to get the town as a pilot to see what it would be entailed in terms of using this type of equipment, even though the town's use may be different from a commercial landscaper's use, but still it's legitimate information to be had and good for the town to do that.
So
So,
I move to re-refer.
do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
And I'd like to thank everybody that came in.
Yeah.
Thank Adrian, sir. Mark, thank you very much for both of your presentations. I greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate it.
It's true, absolutely right.
Everybody in favor of re-referral?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Can I make one quick comment
I'll give you
briefly?
just a couple of seconds here.
Yeah, over the years, if there's one thing I've learned is that every pancake has two sides to it. And I'd like to suggest that there may be a third side. It is my hope that 40 years from now, I admire you, that's commitment, 40 years. It is my hope that, I'm with the Land Trust, that 40 years from now, we won't need landscapers. What we need.
40 years from now, I certainly won't.
We need an army. You guys, look at you. You're young, you're healthy, you're passionate. We need that passion to reclaim all of these lawns back into nature. And we won't need mowers and blowers and fertilizers and pesticides. Enough of that. Our youth needs a world to live in. And so I'm thinking that we'll have all these discussions about gas and electricity and this and that, but that's going to seem silly in the future. So
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you all.